When I say September, what do you think of? For me, it's the crisp air on a sunny day, leaves changing colors, guilt-free stationery purchases, and spending an entire afternoon organizing the perfect diary for the upcoming academic year. This isn't the response that most parents that we work with at Maverick Education have. In fact, when I say September, most parents visibly shudder. If this is you, then you are in the right place. And by the end of this episode, I'll break down a 4-week action plan to help make September a little less Halloween fright and a little more manageable. Welcome back to the Mindful Toolbox Podcast. I'm Sarahlynn, your host, and today we're diving in to one of the biggest challenges I hear parents talking about again and again and again, and that is emotional-based school non-attendance, formerly known as emotional-based school avoidance or school refusal. Now, if you've been with us for the entirety of this first season, thank you, by the way, we're very happy to have you, you'll recognize this topic as something we've covered in episode 2, emotional-based school non-attendance, how to recognize it, and how to respond. Now, that's a really great first point of call if this is something that your family is currently navigating, because it flags up common first signs of school non-attendance and suggests how to support your child before they even leave school completely. But if you're ready for the next step and you want to dig in a little bit deeper, that is what today is all about. We're taking it one step further. Specifically, we're going to break down why mornings can be such a battleground. And we're going to map out a 4-week re-entry plan that blends science, strategy, and small wins, because we're all about small wins around here. So grab your cup of tea or coffee, grab your pen and paper, and let's dive in. Now, over the years of working through Maverick Education, we've worked with many families who experience emotional-based school non-attendance on the regular. And it's through these conversations with parents that we realized one sticking point that seems to either be a make or break, and that is a morning routine. Now, this makes sense. As someone who thinks they're pretty good at getting up in the morning, but has had more time to reflect on the slow pace that I appreciate more, the routine, the structure that I really need to feel good about the rest of my day. And if I don't have that routine and structure, things feel a little bit wobbly for a little bit. I totally understand why mornings are the starting point. So let's unpick this. Why are they the hardest part of the day for many families experiencing emotional-based school avoidance? Well, here's what's happening under the surface. Research tells us that nervous system spikes happen when children transition from home, which is their safe zone, into school, which can feel really unpredictable. That transition creates things like the stomach aches, the tears, the refusal, the shouting, and sometimes even the swearing. What I would like for you to do is just take a moment and reflect for yourself. How does your body feel on a school morning? Especially if emotional-based school avoidance or school non-attendance is becoming a recurring theme in your home, I bet that you're waking up anxious yourself. Now we need to remember, your regulation is the starting point for theirs. So here is how we can ground not only their nervous system, but yours too. First, we're going to get rid of uncertainty and pack in as much predictability as possible, because the brain craves predictability and a nervous system interprets change as a threat. The second thing we're going to do is we're going to lower the sensory load. So anything from breakfast textures and clothing tags to the sound of the kettle boiling or siblings shouting, every sound and sensation, it stacks up. So we're going to try and make sure that we lower the sensations as much as possible. The third thing we're going to talk about is time pressure we're late. I have such a vivid memory, and I'm sure my sister can vouch for this. But when we were younger, my dad would bang on our bedroom door and yell, "Girls, school!" before he walked down the stairs and got himself ready. And that time pressure made me jump out of bed with so much worry because I was taken out of my comfortable sleep and given an input that made me jumpstart my day in a really stressful manner. It's not a way that I would recommend waking anyone up, and it made sense why I would have such anxiety in the morning. It's because my amygdala, right, my guard dog, it went into fight mode right away. Our stress hormones increase, my body moves into fight, flight, freeze, and already I could feel my heart palpitating, even just thinking about that moment. So we need to get rid of the time pressure. The fourth thing is attachment and safety. Handoffs at the school, it can be really tricky. And if a child doesn't feel securely seen or their system doesn't have enough co-regulation to face the day, they're going to really struggle to feel confident walking into the building that hosts all of the unknown. So ultimately, for a child with anxiety or sensory sensitivities, this is like a perfect storm. Their nervous system leaves their window of tolerance, which we explored in episode 4, and it slips into fight, flight, or freeze. And ultimately, that's when we see the meltdowns, the shutdowns, the clinginess. If this feels familiar, you have permission to take a breath and know that this is not a sign of weakness in you or your child or your family as a whole. It's their biology calling for safety first. So what can we do? Let's open up that toolbox and create a sensory first morning safe strategy plan. We're going to start small because small wins build trust. Let's start with breakfast textures. Now, I don't know about you, but I can be a little bit funny about my breakfast, especially if it has a weird texture. So we need to offer safe, predictable options. If crunchy cereal feels overwhelming, try yogurt or granola. If mornings are already tense, let's skip the introduction of new foods. Predictability is soothing, so maybe even try a breakfast schedule or chatting to them about what they're going to wake up and eat the night before. The second small win that we're going to build into this safe start routine is one of my favorites, and yes, I lean into it as well, and this is a predictable playlist. We're going to either pick one song or just a short playlist that always plays at getting ready time. Over time, this is going to become a stimuli or a cue to the body that they're safe. Find a fun way over the weekend to talk about what kind of music do they want. Do they want to start with something slow that will help them kind of just get used to sound, and then as they finish brushing their teeth and getting ready and they're getting ready to head out the door, the music, the tempo it builds, what will soothe their system in the morning? The third thing we're going to do is micro choices. We've talked so much about routine and structure, but remember, a lot of children need flexibility within that structure. We're going to offer small choices. Do you want to walk or do you want to scooter? Do you want to put your shoes on first or your coat on first? Do you want your green bag or your blue bag? Would you like me to hold your coat or do you want to grab it on your way out? These tiny choices give children a sense of agency. And when we have a sense of agency, we feel more empowered, and it helps to know that you trust their judgment. The fourth thing that we're going to look at to make a safe start in the morning is the transport handoff. We need to ritualize the goodbye. 3 breaths, a high five or a secret handshake, and a powerful message. You are safe. I believe in you. I will be right here when the school day is done. Now, this is an interesting one because actually I got this idea from when I was doing my puppy training. I know, it sounds really funny, but just go with me for a second. When we were doing puppy training, we were told about how to leave the house so the dog doesn't get worried or anxious and can feel settled in their own home while you're away. And the trainer, I remember they talked about how we had to do this no fuss goodbye. You would just basically give them a specific treat or a toy, or you would put them on their bed, you would give them a little stroke, but you would just have this little routine that set them up, and then you would just leave. And you wouldn't fuss about it, you wouldn't make a big deal of it, you would just exit the door calmly. And because you were leaving calm, cool, collected, you had this air of everything is going to be okay, your dog felt calm, cool, and collected to stay behind. So when I noticed that all of these parents kept talking about how their child really struggled in the morning and sometimes even the night before, especially at school drop-off when they had to leave the parent or leave the car, it just hit me. We can't have these big, overwhelming goodbyes because it sends a trigger to the child's brain that this is a big deal. And we want to lower that pressure, that big dealness as much as possible. So find a way to ritualize the goodbye so it's short, sharp, sweet, and it's done. Now, you might be sitting here and you might be saying, okay, well, those 4 things, I feel like we do them all the time. And it's quite possible that you have done all of these and your mornings still break down. But let's dig in, maybe involve the child in the conversation about what they want for their breakfast and their small choices, and bring in that music and just see what works. Because remember, ultimately, they're looking for consistency. So even if it's not working on a Tuesday and Thursday, it might work on a Friday, so stick with it. Right, I want to zoom out a little bit here because I think what's really important to reiterate from episode 2 is how EBSNA, emotional-based school non-attendance, it's not rare. It's so not rare. The latest DFE statistics in England show that over 1 million children were classed as persistently absent in the last school year. That's not a parenting failure. That is a systemic signal. As of August 2024, DFE's new statutory guidance on attendance makes one thing crystal clear. Schools and families are expected to collaborate early, flexibly, and with the child's needs at the center. So there's things like attendance hubs that have been rolled out to model the best practices, but what this really means for you as a parent, what it boils down to, is that you have a right to ask for child-centered reintegration, not just blanket rules. And we're going to put the exact links to the guidance, the statistics, and the press release in the show notes for you in case you want to look a little bit more. But the key takeaway here is school refusal. It's not truancy. It's not laziness. It's literally the body saying, I don't feel safe yet. And so until that child feels safe, we're constantly going to hit that refusal. What can we do? This part here, this is where you pull out your pen and your paper. And if you can't because you're on the school run or you're driving or you're washing dishes while you're listening, that's okay because we have a 4-week reentry playbook. I'm going to walk you through it right now, but it will also be available to download so you can literally just copy the entire thing week by week. So let's dig in. Week 0. This is our prep week. We are going to document patterns. I want you to keep a 1-week log. Note the time, the trigger, the behavior. This gives you data, not guesswork. It's finding specific trends, patterns, noticings throughout the entirety of the week that can help you communicate better with the school and the other staff that you might lean on in the future. Which brings us to week 1, official week 1, when you are going to communicate with the school. You're going to use a school script, which we have a template for in the show notes, and I want you to state the patterns that you noted in week 0. Plus, you're going to ask for a safe adult for them. An adult that your child has identified that they feel safe with can be their touchstone person. And a phased return if we get to the point where they're not being able to enter the school. Not to take us too far off on a tangent here, but one of my best friends, she sent me this piece of information that said that when we see our best friend's face, it's like enjoying our favorite food. Like that's what lights up in our brain because we're just so incredibly excited to see them. And that same activation can happen when we see an adult that we feel safe with, that we feel comfortable with. And that's what we want. We want to do all of the things we can to lower the stress before they even get to school, which is why we had our safe start morning routine. But then as soon as they get to that school, if we can prime their brain even more with an adult that they feel comfortable with, and biologically their brain sends signals that says, woohoo, like we're excited, we're happy, we're comfortable, that will set everything up for true success. So don't be afraid of finding out who that safe adult is for your child and advocating for that safe adult to be who they see in the morning. Now, week 2 is going to lead us into small scaffolded exposure. We talked quite a bit about this in episode 2, but what I want you to remember is that we're taking gentle steps to exposing. We might get ready for the day and not leave the house. We might drive to the car park. The next day, we might enter the building for 10 minutes. We need to celebrate each step of the way because it's such an important journey to be exposed to things that physically make you feel so uncomfortable. This leads us to week 3. Now, week 3 is about bringing that laddered approach even further. So we're going to pull in an actual timetable. It's a reduced timetable with the view of going back full time, but at a slow pace. It's not just a reduction in school hours, and that's it. We still need to have our safe adult. We still need to be looking at safe exit plans. We still need to be talking about what kind of stimuli is causing the trigger of emotion so that way there, the school, the child, the family can create a plan that allows for full reintegration when it's possible. So week 3, we're bringing in a topic that they have to attend that feels low threat. They're bringing in a favorite club that they enjoy. We're bringing things in so we're still allowing for that comfort zone to be pushed slightly without pushing them all the way out to complete past trigger shutdown. We don't want that. That leads us to week 4, which is a review and the formal request. So this is when you meet with the school. If these difficulties still persist, this is where you can request SEN adjustments or even initiate an EHCP referral. Now, I know you know this, but it's important for me to say it anyway. Attendance is not the goal in isolation. We need safety, trust, and regulation to come first. Then attendance follows. So this 4-week plan, it's not perfect and it may not be just within 4 weeks. It may need to be pulled and teethed out over a half term, over a full term. And it's not going to be this tick box easy transition. Your child is going to take a step forward and 3 steps back, and you're going to hit a wall time and time again, whether it's with your child, with yourself, with the school. This is something that so many families are dealing with, and therefore so many schools are dealing with. And the capacity just sometimes isn't always there. But keep on it. Keep consistent and keep lines of communication open with the school, with the local authority, and that will really serve you well. I want to bring this to life a little bit with a real story. And I've mentioned this child before in past episodes, but I think it's relevant here. So one of our year 9 girls that we supported, she was this avid dancer, and all of a sudden she stopped going to school. The school reduced her timetable after lots and lots of pressure, but without any structure, which meant she then fell behind and really struggled to want to go back into school because she just felt more lost. So there was like this big internal conflict where she wanted to do well, she wanted to go to school, she wanted to be able to accomplish what her peers were accomplishing, but she was so isolated, so far behind emotionally and now academically that the wall, the hurdle to re-enter was just so much bigger than what it was before it even started. And this is a very common and very intimidating place to be, right? Schools doing what they think is best because they're reducing the timetable, which is what we advocate for, but without the structure for reintegration, without the curiosity of what caused that refusal in the first place, everything kind of falls apart. So when we started working together, we reframed her week around a single interest-led lesson. We scaffolded exposure and we looked a lot at co-regulation. Over the months, she rebuilt trust around not just herself, but the school as a whole. And now she attends 20 hours a week. And the main thing here is that we stopped forcing attendance and reintegration as the main goal. It was about safety, patience, and being okay to adapt and celebrate those small wins. So when you feel like you're the only family struggling, remember you're not alone, and this is very clearly a national conversation, and there are small steps that we can do, but everyone needs to know where everybody else stands. We need to feel like we can trust everyone within that triangle to create that safety and the structure. Because ultimately, what won't work is if you at home are trying to figure out what's going on and you're leading with curiosity and you're leading with kindness, but the school doesn't understand what's going on. They just think that you're not putting your child into school. They're going to keep finding you. You're going to get stressed. There's going to be conflict. But if we can create dialogue, if we can create curiosity, if we can show what our hopes are and what trajectory we're looking to take so the child can engage with education confidently, securely, happily again, then that's going to create a system, an ecosystem of trust, and everyone will be able to find their feet and move forward a lot more confidently. Okay, that was a lot. Let's pick something that we can focus on this week. I want you to document at least 3 morning patterns that you see, or maybe chat about a predictable playlist that you're going to integrate next week with them. Or today, when they come home or when you see them next, just practice micro-choicing. Practice reducing conflict and that headstrong want to control because there's nothing else they feel like they can control. Start giving them micro-choices so they build that sense of regulation and autonomy back. And when you're ready for it, you can draft the school email using our template, which you can find down in the show notes. Ultimately, we want to celebrate a tiny win, even if it's just getting dressed in the morning. I want to end with this. Regulation is the bridge back to learning. Every morning you take a breath before reacting. Every time you offer one tiny choice. Every time you log a pattern, you are building that bridge brick by brick. And if today feels heavy, if the word September gives you chills, let me remind you, showing up to listen to this episode is already a win. It means you care, you're looking for tools, and you're not doing this alone. And that matters. Until then, celebrate the tiny wins. Happy Thursday. Woo! All right, that's 10. You guys, that's 10. 10 episodes done.